Does it work? Yes, perfect. Welcome, everybody. Yeah, I hope you all had already some nice conversations and talks, and I also hope you learned something already. I certainly did. And I also noticed the pattern of all the speeches, so it was about technology, like in literally every presentation, and it's about the metals and mining industry, so that's going to be the topic of this panel, to combine these two. And yeah, so let's have a seat. Here's the second one. I will go on this side. So before we start, I actually have a question for the audience. And I think, ironically, in the technology panel, we can do it analog, just by hand signs. So who of you, so raise your hand, who of you knows any task or has any idea how to make something in your daily job more efficient, better, or faster using technology? Okay, that's not everybody. That's nice. But then second question is actually, how of you who already raised the hand plans to use a new technology in the next, let's say, 6 months to solve one of the issues which you had in mind? Okay, that's nearly everybody from the first. That's really great. And then the last question is actually, well, do you plan to do that in-house, or did you already pick a partner for that? Raise your hand. That's a sign for the sales team, I would say. So first, yeah, so one perspective from my side. I believe technology is a tool which is there to solve exactly that, to make your jobs, well, easier, better, faster, to equip you with more data, to make data-driven decisions, to become more efficient. And with that being said, I think we have some great people from great companies here, and I will introduce them. So we're sitting randomly. So number one, at least on my list, is Thomas Kirk, founder, CEO of Foresight Data Machines Limited. He's also already sitting here. Then Stefan Grüll, co-founder, CEO, S17. Oh, nice, it matches up. Third, Florian Kriependorf, founder, ScrapBees, GmbH, also. And finally, Ruud, commercial manager at Euro-Rijn Logistics. So you see, it's not everyone here is exactly in the metals and mining industry, but it's around this industry. So it's about connecting. So maybe please join me welcoming them on stage. And sorry, I need to have cheat sheets. So my first question is actually for Ruud. In logistics, yes, thanks. What kind of tech do you use, and how digital are the processes right now?
Thank you, Tristan. Let me first also would like to do some commercials. I work for the company Euro-Rijn Global Logistics. It's founded in 1979. It still is a family-owned company. In the 44 years that the company now exists, we have grown to a multinational group of companies with various activities. We have, totally in the Netherlands, we have more than 400,000 square meters of warehouses. And next to that, we have also offices in Germany, in Duisburg. And 2 years ago, we opened in the port Mercator in Italy. The vision of the group is to improve the logistics world in a sustainable and customer-oriented way. And we would like to be independent, innovative, and in control. Now, going to your question, what kind of techs do we use within our company? One thing what we have developed is a web portal where our customers can do their online inventory. So no matter in what time zones they are, they can check online the stocks level and can go ahead with it. Next to that, on the same web portal, trucking companies and customers, they can book time slots for loading their material. We only use it for loading. The big advantage for is that we have more control and overview for the employment of our workers, because what we see before we had the web portal, that trucks show up whenever they want to do. So we saw peaks, complaining trucking companies, complaining customers about delays. So now we see more, because of the web portal, we see more an equal level of the use of the capacity of our workers. What we also try within the group is to simplify and standardize the orders our customers are giving to us. With one of our long-term customer, we developed an order entrance via a software program called Simplify, or Simply. We agreed a standard form which the customer is sending to us via email, and the program simply they convert it into TXT files and extract and enter it. It will be orders will be entered into our system. Another example is that we use EDI for a big aluminium producer from the Middle East. They send all the orders to us, and automatically orders are being created. When we discharge the containers, we scan the bundles, and we automatically create new COAs, which will be accompanied by the trucks. What we are really proud of is we make use of a solution which is called CargoSnap. What is CargoSnap? It's a digital, it's a platform for the logistic chain to document and record shipment conditions from receipt of the goods to customs deliveries. In the past, we all know about the existence of digital cameras. You need memory cards to check the conditions of the material loading, and when the material will be discharged will be loaded. But with this app, for each modality or commodity which is entering our warehouse or will be loaded, the goods will be. There are standard steps which the workers have to follow, and the app is linked to our warehouse management system. And once when the truck is loaded or the goods are being stored, we can share with our customers the reports, and they can see the conditions of the material. Also afterwards, after 3 or 5 months, when their questions are being raised, still they can check on our system what the condition of the goods was when the goods arrived in our warehouse. Another example is this year we started to implement a tool called Shipio. What is Shipio? Shipio is a supply chain visibility platform that provides shippers instant access to predictive information of all the deliveries. The platform is an added value, extra service for our clients for whom we ship material. Most of you who are once have checked a bill of lading on a website of a shipping line. You need to log in, you need a password, and this tool, with this tool, our customers can see on one screen, and they will get an overview of all the material which have been loaded from our warehouse, And they can easily track and trace the material where material is being transshipped on the way in another port. They see exactly when it is being discharged and when it will be loaded again and what is the ETA. So it's really a big advantage. So, and ShipPO is also, of course, it's also linked to our warehouse management system. So these are a few examples of how digital our company is.
Thanks. Yes. So then from one logistics question maybe to already the next one. So for Florian Kriependorf, founder of ScrapBees. So maybe you can also introduce ScrapBees a little bit. And then the question is, ScrapBees promises that everything is digital for the sellers. What about the other side? How do you sell?
I don't exactly recall that promise, but it sounds a little euphemistic to me because, you know, in the scrap business, let's not be fooled, material moves from a mine or an urban mine in this case to the smelter somehow. And that's what we do. Yeah, we operate a swarm of what we call ScrapBees, and we collect scrap and we move it to somebody who can use it in the recycling business or in the production as a producer. But we do have two advantages, and that was very interesting to hear Jochen in earlier this morning. It's about what you base your company on, and I think that makes us a little different. If you base it on data, transparency, and on tech and on your own software, in our case, ultimately it gives you a competitive advantage over your market participants. In his case, it was Deutsche Post, Deutsche Bahn, the German Automobile Club, if I recall correctly. So you have to imagine what you're up to and how you build your company. And in our case, you have stationary scrapyards that just sit there and wait for somebody to bring them scrap, which is a trade that has been working for hundreds of years. And what we do is we hunt for the long tail of the urban mines. The smaller ones, between 100 kilograms and maybe 10 tons, and we really like to give them a customer journey that is fulfilling. And I mean, you've seen our chancellor lately, and there's a saying in Germany, amongst the blinds, the one-eyed is king. And maybe it's as easy as that. We just need to differentiate ourselves. So we have our own software. But the other advantage is our very business model. Since we go and handle every piece, we have the opportunity to label it and to specify it to the needs of somebody who can use it. So if somebody gives us a specification of whatever he wants to produce, we can tell our bee people to analyze it in that way. Because we can see in real time which material is being collected where and where we can actually bring it to, and that makes us quite different, I think.
Absolutely. Cool. Next, for Stefan, sorry. So it has become the accidental hot topic today, so the question will be around it. So is blockchain still a hot topic, and how could it help the metals and mining industry?
Yeah, I knew this question will hit me. Yeah, disclaimer first. I'm first of all a steel and metals guy, and I've never owned a single Bitcoin. So the way I look to blockchain is, I think, very pragmatic. I see it as an infrastructure that is enabling the next generation of digital services that are simply not possible with current technologies. So if we look at our case, our product, the digital material passport, it enables us to move information that is now handled basically on paper or PDF documents in the form of mill test reports or certificates of analysis. I think a lot of people will know that here in the audience, to machine-readable data sets. Yeah? And we talked a lot about digitization, and now we talk about AI, but digitization is first of all a matter of data. So where we use blockchain in exactly that use case is to replace today's mandatory requirement of, I would say, stamp and signature by digital verification and notarization capabilities. Yeah? So in that sense, blockchain, an infrastructure enabling a new digital service. And I think what is important is that when I look at blockchain and industry adoption, I see that it's really adopted. Yeah? It's adopted step by step into the, I would say, everyday or the enterprise systems that we use every day. Yeah? So noiselessly under the hood. And I think that's a very pragmatic and good approach. So also for our solution, it's fully implemented in SAP. So for a steel and metal producing company, nothing changes. Yeah? So they steer everything from their known environment.
Cool, thanks. And then I think we're stepping up in complexity already. So next is for Thomas Kirk. Well, what is AI and what use cases exist for the procurement of raw materials?
Yep, thanks. So yeah, Thomas Kirk, Foresight Data Machines. We do AI stuff for steel plants, basically. What's AI? There's kind of two ways to define it. The traditional way is just you make some software that does something that seems intelligent. That's not really a very useful definition because it's obviously kind of hard to define what intelligence is anyway. The other way to define it, which is kind of what it means in practice these days, is making some software that achieves something by learning from experience instead of using like handwritten rules, right? So if you've got a bunch of data that represents some experience, you can give it to a program and it'll learn to do the thing itself. How you use that for procurement, this is kind of an interesting thing. So if you're a steel plant and you're going to procure some raw materials, that is sort of like an intelligence task. It's a pretty difficult task, how to do that optimally. Let's just analyze it for a second. So you don't want to just buy all the cheapest raw material you can, right? If you're a steel plant, you want to buy the raw material which is most valuable to you, to your specific plant at that specific moment in time, given your needs. And it's kind of hard to figure out what that really is, what the answer to that is, what is the most valuable thing for you, because it depends on how the material will behave in your process, like what energy efficiency will you end up having, what will your yield be, what will the quality of the product turn out to be. All of these things are driven by the choice of what material you buy, but it's very hard to understand the relationship between what you buy and what happens. Like, how do you know, how can you predict, given certain materials that you're going to buy from your particular supply chain, how your product and process will behave? Luckily, of course, steel plants have got a load of data on what they've bought in the past and how their product and process have behaved. And so, in principle, what you could do is create an AI system that learns from that experience and is kind of a co-pilot for the procurement team that tells them what is the optimal procurement decision to make for their particular plant at their moment in time based on a proper value and use, like a predictive value and use analysis. And you know, the commercial is we've done that. And that's it.
Good answer, yeah, I think. Interesting answer, yeah. So taking that, what we now learned, how AI can be used in that, I would be curious to ask Ruud, because I understood from the initial answer that especially the logistics market is right now not the most sophisticated market when it comes to that, but they are introducing a lot of things which make the daily tasks easier, more safe, which inform people about the state of the goods. But what could you imagine, what could AI do to make your market or your customers to help them?
That's a difficult question. I'm not an expert in IA, that's more Thomas' topic. But what we see and what can be done, what can be implemented also in the future for all of us is, we spoke about the blockchain, and Frank said that there is a hold on the blockchain. But we see blockchain, also an introduction of blockchain in the logistics. There are already shippers in the market who use blockchain for the transport, in the transport of the goods. So they put sensors in containers or in trains. There is one big potato shipper who's using it. They put sensors in a container, and all the way they can track and trace all the information, temperature, and they can then all the logistic parties involved in the chain are involved in that case. Another thing is that the blockchain is also, we see that in the port of Rotterdam, that shipping lines are, nowadays, when you pick up a container or when a container is being released, you get a PIN code, and the PIN code we write by email to a trucking company, and a trucking company collects the container. But what is being introduced now by, what I know, 2 shipping lines, that they make use of blockchain. So when the containers will be released, we get a token, and the token is being handed over in all the transport companies in the logistic chain. So that is really a development which is taking place. And next to that, the next step is in 2019, the Port of Rotterdam started to make use of the e-bill of lading. So there is no, now you still have an original bill of lading or seaway bill of lading, but the next step is an e-bill of lading. But because of that, there was a successful introduction of it, and but the Dutch law has to be amended before it can be used in the port. So, and I think especially if you look to the scams which recently have happened, the big Trafigura scam. Recently I read about Arubis, which had also a scam of material which was not material which they received, which was not the material which they had bought at all. And yeah, I think time is changing in the logistics market. We see a lot of developments and concerns within the market with banks and with customers. So I think a lot of the changes are coming up. And I think especially the token and the e-bill of lading, that's a good development.
Absolutely, agree. So with blockchain, you're solving the problem of, well, first you have the data distributed so everyone can access it in that market, but also it cannot be tampered with, right? So there's a chain of events which are happening and they can't be modified. Cool, thanks. I only have 2 other questions, and then I would leave the questions for the audience, so you can already think about potential questions. Thomas, again. So, in your view, what needs to happen in order to make tech, and particularly AI, more tangible so that it becomes a priority?
Yeah, I'm not sure. There's a couple of answers. One is, obviously, like, if the steel industry and the raw materials industry had more so-called digital infrastructure, it would be a bit more convenient to do projects like this, because you know, the data being inaccessible and siloed and stuff is an inconvenience. But it's not like a fundamental blocker, I would say, in general. Yeah, I think probably the biggest reason that there aren't a lot of successful AI projects in this space is just because, like, you know, no one's done a good job yet. It's just like really hard to successfully apply AI to like a really real problem and like get value out of it. That's just like fundamentally a hard thing, and eventually the solutions are going to start getting good, and then they'll be adopted widely.
Agree. Well, my final question before the Q&A. Again for Stefan. Well, S17 has created an open source structure for digital COAs. What is that, and how can participants adapt?
Yeah, I mean, if you think of that we want to share data, you know, alongside an entire value chain, and in our case from basically a metal producer to semi-finished products, what we have to do is we have to agree on common data standards. Yeah? So in order to make sure that we understand the messages that we send to each other. And the way we approach this, so we took the existing normative references for COAs, for mill test reports. So in Europe, these are two standards, EN 10204 and EN 10168. And out of that, we developed such digital standards, which we open sourced because we understood that this has to be separated from our commercial offer in a way that it's open also for other software developers to take this over, to continue to develop it, but also for the entire industry to adopt it. And that's particularly important right now, and it's really picking up as we have a lot of new requirements for this standard coming from CBAM, for instance. So bits and pieces of the information that sits within a COA will have to be reported into CBAM. We have the same case for sustainability data. So we spoke about the importance of primary data, scope 3 emissions, that are attested by the material supplier and then presented in front of his customer. We believe the COA is the way to transport this information. And here, of course, there's also new requirements coming from Catena X, coming from the World Business Council for Sustainable Development. And that's why it's good it's open source. So it's an open platform, so to say, that everyone is invited to contribute or make sure that the requirements of your company are well represented in that standard.
Great. So, in my understanding, that's then similar to the e-bill of lading, right? But just on a different topic. It's a standard which can be used by everyone to make data exchange easier, and you created one. Cool. So, questions. And if you have a question, please also ask directly who you want, who would be best to answer it. I think Frank already holding the microphone, so he insists on being the first.
I always have a question. So, thanks a lot, first of all. Ruud, I know we are working together on actually integrating Euro-Rijn also into our systems. And you said already, look, you're working with a customer, with a client of yours on standardization, standard forms, but then they are sent via email and then you read them actually into your system. Can you envisage a future where actually the email does not play a role anymore?
We hope so, because what you see, and especially since the COVID, the numbers of emails which are being sent are tremendous nowadays. Even for the smallest questions they would like to raise, they send an email. So we always try to filter it. But with the customers with whom we now have this standardized system, by sending the orders or sending the information which we use for our own platform to extract it in our warehouse management system. We hope that the numbers of emails they will decrease, but on the other side, you also have to understand that the major part of our customers are the smallest traders. The question is, will they ever be able to make the investment to send the same information as the big producers are doing with whom we make the arrangements now? So I think emails will remain, but we sincerely hope that the number of emails will decrease.
Thank you very much. Marco Bifurco, Metzam. My question is, what I have heard was in the line of facilitate the business. I'm thinking far away from here, the double jump. We are going in something that is not facilitating, it's making a total revolution. And I see like, I don't know, GPT, chatbot. So there is a scenario where once you get everything inside the Microsoft tools, it will be, they will know the business better than us. Like we say today, Facebook know me better than my wife. And could be. And so I see also chatbot speaking themselves. Once you put the intelligence tools, artificial intelligence, you make procurement decision, then the next step would be chatbot negotiations that speak each other and optimize the price. So I see a scenario where the platform, like Metal Hub, goes automatically in some way. There is a constantly algorithm who speaks between seller and you make like, then you no email. You wake up in the morning, you say, okay, what the system bought today? Maybe you need somebody who say, okay, green button, no, who knows? But this is what I see in the next years, very, very quickly coming. Beyond facilitate the business, completely revolutionize the business. And maybe there will be 5 people in this conference in the next 10 years. But is somebody working on negotiating chatbot tools or stuff like that, sourced by artificial intelligence, or it's just a fantasy for the moment? Thank you.
Thanks for the question. So we are currently not working on integrating a chatbot, but I think the pattern is clear, that AI, machine learning, or even if it's interfaces, which all of them have something in common, they make it easier to do the same thing. Easier, faster, more efficient, or slightly better. I personally don't believe that chatbots will negotiate with each other, but I believe that people who do make decisions can make better decisions using these technologies. Want someone add something to that? Thanks.
Yeah, I agree that you could get somewhere close to where it's like fully automated, more like just like an automatic exchange that you would have for like publicly traded stocks or something. So like an intermediate step would be chatbots, right? But then like, I mean, if it's 2 chatbots talking to each other, like they may as well just talk in whatever language they use instead of English. But yeah, so I do think you could get pretty automatic, and I do think like, maybe not exactly a chatbot, but I do think that you know, there's going to be an intermediate step really soon where the procurement person has a tool that's like a co-pilot, maybe is a better idea, that's telling them, yeah, that sounds like a good price for us, that's not a good price for us, yes, that, you know, and then they're just mediating that conversation with the seller side. I don't know about the other side at all, but at least on the procurement side, definitely an AI-enhanced procurement person that's using an AI as a co-pilot is like basically, you know, more or less there, or you know, it's very soon, I would say.
I have a question.
As opposed to, just to add to that, as opposed to Tristan, I would really like to see that. And I see that on the horizon too. The problem is, and I can only say that for scrap, scrap is a very peculiar material, and the problem occurs not where the negotiation is, but when it links to the actual material, because the seller and the buyer usually talk about something different, you know, and when you really see when it goes into the mill, or when it leaves or gets to your yard, that's when you see whether the chatbot negotiation was good or bad. And that glitch, I think, is really difficult to overcome.
Since you have the microphone, Florian, I also have a question for you. So I understand the business, you operate a fleet of vans with a B on the van, which is collecting directly scrap from urban mines. In German, we would say Entfallstellen. So now we have some foundries and steel mills and copper processing companies here in the room. So could these companies that need scrap buy from your company scrap, and what would be the benefits?
Yes, of course, is the answer, but not right now. The difficulty here is that the structures that have arisen for the hundreds of years are very rigid. You buy from a larger scrappy that brings it to you in the format you can actually use it the best. He buys it from a medium guy, and he is sourcing from wherever. So the difference that we do is we never buy from traders, we always buy from Entfallstellen, from virgin sources, which allows us to pinpoint the quality exactly. What we don't have so far is the real big volume, because we only started 2.5 years ago. But it's also where we sell it. We might need a little change if we really want to connect the urban mine directly with the mill, just by the swarm that we operate. Something needs to change on that. Yeah, there are already mills that have bought ScrapBees and attached them to their operation, which is, I think, a good thing, because they have power about their quality. But that's something that we need to overcome. In terms of data, I think we are much farther than most of the scrapyards that we sell to at the moment, because they don't really know what they sell. They just take samples of the piles that they have and keep their fingers crossed that everything is all right when it goes into the mill. We know exactly in real time what exactly we could deliver.
What about carbon footprint? Could you tell a buyer what is the carbon footprint of a scrap delivery?
Yeah, as said, and I really like the talk of Nicole. This is where we will go to. You know, from every fish that you buy in every supermarket, where exactly has been caught, by whom, and how it got there, and so forth. We can openly share this because our business model is based on transparency. We don't care if the steel mill knows whether that part of the container came from a basement somewhere in the city of something, but we can track it from there to wherever we bring it, because that urban mine has already been exploited. It's now gone, because we focus on that long tail. So yes, you can do that, and our software just spits it out.
Thank you.
Thomas, I have a question. So I'm Victor Nieto. I'm a metallurgist, and I think my question comes in that regard. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So metal making is a very complex process, and you mentioned as well, okay, you need a lot of data, and usually the data comes at the beginning with the product specs, and at the end with the ultimate product. So in the meantime, in that interest steps, what do metal producers need to give, like companies like you, in terms of data to make the process more efficient? Do you have some sort of view, okay, what do we need and where do we need it? So how to prepare for the future?
So it depends on the exact application you're trying to solve, right? So if you're talking about the procurement use case that we've kind of been alluding to, just what a steel plant would call their level 2 data is normally enough, which is kind of like aggregated process data. So it's just like, oh, what was the total energy that we used doing this thing, and like how much oxygen did we inject over there and stuff like that. So all of what a steel plant would colloquially call their level 2 data, which is aggregated metrics about, I would say, all the key stuff that they've done to the process and has resulted from the process. So anything they did to it and anything that was a result, like that aggregated data set is like enough for like a procurement application. Does that answer the question, or did you have it?
Yeah, it does. And in case that you don't have that aggregated data, let's assume a small company, what are the best ways to get that data?
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, so like normally they'd even, like if we're talking about steel plants, they normally have that kind of data, because like even a small steel plant that's like independent is going to have like a monthly management report, and a lot of it is related to their, essential KPIs, like how much of these materials did they consume, how much energy did they use, and stuff like that. So like it's normally available. If it's not available, then there's some really good, there's obviously legacy companies, and there's also some good startups that come in and kind of digitalize your stuff real efficiently, to make it all a bit easier for people like us to come in. So yeah, there's a startup in Germany called, it's more of like a scale up these days, called Cybulski, who they come in and kind of set up like a more modern digital infrastructure for you to collect your data and stuff like that. But normally the stuff you need is kind of there. It's just very awkward to get to it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, with that, I think we are done, and we are also in the fortunate situation to be the last one before lunch. So, I mean, you can see us around. If you have any more questions, feel free to jump to us, and let's start a discussion then. But from my side, I want to thank you guys for your really insightful answers and chats. And yeah, maybe one round of applause. And with that, back to Frank.
Yes, thank you very much. I think there's a discussion when will this future happen, but not if. That's actually the key thing that is always my takeaway when we speak to clients, when we speak to potential users of our platform. It's not a question if, it's a question when. I think that's what we all need to remember. We will not avoid a future where actually technology will support us in certain ways. So thank you very much for all the panelists also sharing their experience, their views on this. I have the book. I just hand it out quickly to everyone.